You know who it is, Don Miguel Castaneda, expert life coach, recovery coach, intervention professional. And I want to make a survival course, survivor operations course. And this is for surviving from drugs and drug overdose. And I want to make you a survival operator. And that's basically how I see myself as an operator, a survival operator. Everything I do, your number one instinct of human life is self-preservation, right? Any human instinct, any plant, animal, anything out there, right? You start to capture it, harm it in any way, harm its family in any way, self-preservation of itself and its family. And with drugs, you lose that. You lose that self-preservation instinct, and you'll steal from your family even to pay for the drugs. Now, this survival course is to survive from all forms of like psychological warfare from drug dealers, the cartel, gang members out there, mafia members out there who are selling these drugs and using psychological tactics to get inside your head and start, get manipulating you and making you think that you need these drugs, or you just have to stay high, or you have to keep buying from them, or whatever reason you're just addicted now, like a rat, like a mammal. How scientists do these, lab experiments on mice, and they give them cocaine and see how addictive it is, and to mammals and stuff like that. Humans are mammals, and we do have an addictive personality, addictive nature. But to survive from all that, you have to understand these things. You are a mammal. You have an addictive personality. A lot of it is hand to mouth, right? Cigarettes, alcohol, drugs and pills is hand to mouth. So once you stop doing those drugs and stop smoking or drinking or taking pills and smoking weed and all that stuff, or cocaine and meth and all that, or fentanyl, then you need a new replacement, right? So I recommend AG1. I'll put a link in it in the description. It's just a drink, a vitamin drink that has a lot of greens in it. It's a green drink. Taking your vitamins hand to mouth, right? Drinking a lot of water, plenty of water, 8 bottles a day, at least 8 bottles a day. Get that bottled water, or just drink 8 glasses of water a day, clean water. But if you want to make sure it's filtered and clean, right? So it's easier on your body. So filtered water, just pay for it if you can. Survival techniques, I guess I'll get into it now. I want to make several videos after that in succession, but we'll talk about, staying away from the drug cartel. That's another one. Changing your number, things like that for survival. If you have to survive, you have to make sure that they're not in your proximity or vicinity, you have to be out of their range and off their radar. And you could, one last text, I don't want drugs anymore. I don't want to purchase any more from you. Please stop contacting me. And just ghost them after that. Change your number so they won't even try looking for you. I've changed my number a dozen times. I've changed locations multiple times, and I've been transferred to many maximum security hospitals, maximum security psychiatric units, jails, which are like supermax prisons. I was in ADSEG, administrative segregation. I'd go to general population and get in fights and all that, so they just put me back in segregation. And then other, multiple different psychiatric facilities where a lot of bad things do happen. But survival techniques, okay? So we'll talk about not just survival, just surviving, but, basically keeping your brain cells alive, right? Your brain cells want to survive. They don't want to die. Your brain cells are, they're how you think and process information, and they're kind of like your consciousness in a way, because, your understanding, your thoughts, perception, your values, views, beliefs, everything about you. A lot of it, probably happens in your brain cells, right? So there's a lot of parts of the brain. I won't get too scientific, but that's just my perception about that. So you want your brain cells. They help you think logically, analytically, logistically. You could probably do mathematics, arithmetic, reasoning, equations. You could understand things, understand conversations, understand situations and things like that with your brain cells, and obviously different parts of your brain. But so, if you drink alcohol, you'll be killing brain cells. You're damaging your liver. That's not a form of survival, right? You want to survive. Not only do you want to be a survival operator with maximum capability, but you want to be at peak performance all the time. So you could be 100% competent, and if anything does happen, if shit hits the fan, you could be ready to defend yourself, defend your family, You know, you could, you don't want to drive drunk, you'll kill someone. You want to be that designated driver or that friend who could get someone out of a situation. You want a household, you want an apartment or a house to where you can get a friend and you can have a spare bedroom. And if they go homeless or they get evicted or something happens, they go broke or lose their job or whatever, you can give them a spare bed to stay at your place. Or if it's a family or a friend, right? So you always want to have a place to call home to where you can help a friend or family member. So not only are you surviving now, but you're helping a friend or family survive as well. So that's the self-preservation of yourself and friends and family. So they always say put the oxygen mask on yourself first so that you can save others on an airplane once the masks go down. You know, if the airplane is a lot of turbulence and all that, if they're losing oxygen. So because if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you'll pass out. Then you can't help anybody. So you want to help yourself financially, help yourself spiritually, psychologically, and health-wise, so that you can help others. The healthier you are, the better you think, the healthier you can be to help others, right? I'm healthy, I could take my partner or a friend to the gym, we could work out together, and we'll both be strong and fit, right? We could both be capable soldiers on the street. Now, you want to have your mindset, if you smoke weed, right? If you smoke weed, it could be laced with fentanyl. I've even seen stories where a friend or, you know, they'll give you a cigarette and the cigarette will be laced with fentanyl. Someone just smokes a cigarette, like a girl, a teenage young woman, a young girl will die from smoking a cigarette because it's laced with fentanyl. And so those are the messed up things. So that's why I'm gonna say this, and I don't take this lightly either, and I take it's very serious to me. I'm your best. If you're a drug addict, I believe that your best friend wants you dead, right? Your best friend, whoever you think your best friend is, because if you're a drug addict, your best friend is the person who's giving you drugs, right? Your drug dealer, right? The person you're doing drugs with. It's not going to be a sober person, your mother who wants you to get clean. It's not going to be a friend who wants you to get clean. Your best friend's going to be the people you're doing drugs with and getting drugs from, probably. So that's who I'm talking about. When I say your best friend wants you dead, it's the person giving you drugs, your drug dealer. Because usually they're kind of like a friend, they'll do drugs with you. Or even your friends who are doing drugs, they don't care if you die. They're not going to pay for your funeral. They're not going to pay for your funeral costs. They're not going to, you know, speak at your funeral. Your eulogy, they're not going to speak at your funeral. They're not going to really, if they give you naloxone, I'd be surprised. A lot of them, they don't know what to do. They don't have naloxone on them, you know. And if they're your friend, or your true friend in the first place, would a true friend even recommend drugs and give you drugs? I mean, these aren't friends. These are degenerates. These are bad people. They're bad apples, right? They don't make it in life, and, you know, they pull you down with them. And, you know, it's hard, they're probably not going to find success until they get clean. It's hard to be a functioning drug addict in today's world and being highly successful, right? So your best friend, which is probably your drug dealer or these drug addicts, they want you dead, right? Because you have to think like that, because they're going to be getting fentanyl laced drugs laced with fentanyl, and they're going to be giving them to you. They might not know that there's fentanyl in it, and even if they do, they won't care because they're getting money from you. They want your money. If they're giving you free drugs, that's probably unlikely, but most of the time, they want your money, and if it's laced with fentanyl and you die, oh well, cost of doing business, right? So your best friend, and I say this because I've been in a situation. If you read my book, I'll put a link to my book in the description as well. AG1 and Chest Perception, my book about my autobiography. This psychopath, I knew me for like 2 years. And I met this dude at a hospital and a psychiatry unit. We were just hanging out, playing basketball, fishing, playing some pool and stuff, going to clubs. And eventually this guy offered me some drugs. I was like, well, having a good time, go out and party, you know? But little did I know it was laced with something, right? It could have been, it was really messed up because my memory's messed up. It's blurry. I got a heart palpitation later. So it messed up my heart, high blood pressure, laced with meth. Probably fentanyl is what I'm thinking, because you could lose in and out of consciousness, go in and out of consciousness with fentanyl. And so it also has probably some rat poison, some cyanide. Sometimes they get cyanide out of the rat poison and, you know, roach bait and all that. So they get it from Walmart and they make it. Maybe they do it to punish people. Maybe they do it. Sometimes they do it just to kill people, to see who they can kill. I survived. I did a big shot of that, a huge hit, and luckily I just flushed my body out with water. So and I went to the hospital. Okay, so that's why I recommend, like, AG1 protein drinks, a lot of water. Flush that shit out. When you're detoxing, flush that shit out. Drink a lot of water, ton of water a day. Take your protein drinks, take your AG1, drink a lot of tea, drink a little, maybe 1 cup of coffee a day. That helps, your liver and all that. So, you can do these things and stay hydrated, stay healthy, diet, eat right, exercise, and live a healthy life. Live a good life, right? For me, I was in the military for so many years. I got a medical discharge for different reasons. But, I'm trying to help others with this mindset, a survival mindset. I'm surviving, right? I'll be 40 years old soon. That's old. You can see all my tattoos. I've been around. I've been in a bunch of tattoo parlors. I have tattoos all over my body and my leg and my back and my chest and all that. So I go to these places and they say I have a bipolar personality. Maybe that's true. But, a lot of people get tattoos, so I don't know. But I'm saying that I speak from experience, right? Normal people don't get certain tattoos that I've got, like family oriented, compass for Marine Corps, nautical stars for, being a Marine and going on ship and traveling overseas and all that. Different infantry tattoos and things like that. Maybe a cross for religion. I have a cross on my chest, which is a religious Christianity tattoo. So these things mean things. And when you're recovering, sometimes you want to kind of brand yourself, change your identity. If you want to be religious, that can help, right? It helped me. Get a Bible, right? Read the Bible, go to church. I've been going to church lately. It helps. I donate, even though it's difficult, but I donate a little bit what I can. It's definitely not 10% of my paycheck, but it's something. And I notice that other people do the same thing, about 10, 20 bucks, right? It's not like, 10%, not even 10% of your paycheck. So, that'd be a lot of money if everyone did that. A lot of pastors would be rich everywhere. But, people understand times are hard, times are tough, right? So, just go to church. That can help. Rebrand yourself. Get a religious identity. Maybe get a cross. Get some tattoos to change, to maybe prove to yourself that you want to get clean. Get a butterfly for transformation. This is an infinity symbol which has family on it, right? So, that infinity symbol, that's eternal families for forever, with faith and family. So, religious, obviously a cross, that's like, you want to believe in a higher power. That's the thing about AA, believing in a higher power. But, and that's the only way you can change. You have to surrender yourself to God and not believe that you can do everything yourself. You have to think that there's a higher power that's going to help you do things, and help you get clean, help you change your life, help you improve your life, help you succeed in life, and help you achieve your goals and dreams. So, these are part of, like, this is my first survivor course. This is like a survival operation, right? Survival operation. I'm going to start talking about, like, what you should do in certain situations where people want to give you drugs. There's peer pressure, right? Peer pressure. And there's maybe a gang. Sometimes they don't consider themselves gangs, but they're drug dealers. They're getting stuff from the cartel. They're part of the chain. They're part of this soldier network, this criminal syndicate cartel, network. So, what you should do, and a lot of times, you should call the cops. You should, even afterwards, get the drugs if you have to. If you feel like you're unsafe or whatever, buy the drugs, leave. Don't do them. Say you want to do them later. You're saving them for later, whatever. And go home, call the cops, give them the drugs, tell them where you got them from, tell them to check for fingerprints, whatever, and just get that person off the street, right? They'll call you a snitch and all that, but it could save your life and other people's lives. Because more likely than not, 7 out of 10 times, these counterfeit drugs are laced with fentanyl. You would have died. You will die if you do a lot of these drugs. A lot of people are dying every single day. 200 people to 300 people a day are dying from fentanyl. So, what you should do in situations like that, obviously not do them. If you do them, go to the restroom, say I'm going to do them in the restroom, flush them down the toilet. Don't do them. Flush them down. I've done that before. If it's bad, sometimes you get whacked up. You're like, fuck this shit. And then you flush it down the toilet. I don't want to do any of that again. Sometimes you wake up with the worst hangover. You're like, I'm never gonna drink again. I'm never drinking again. And same with cigarettes. I would smoke like a pack a day. And I used to get so sick, you're like, I'm never smoking again. And sometimes you realize, but you just find, it just makes you sick. You're just sick to your stomach. It just makes you, you're so disgusted with it. You don't want to do it anymore. And with drugs, sometimes it takes that. And if you have to like OD, not die, but just like, you know, be on the verge or brink of death, sometimes that could change your whole mindset. But I'm never doing this shit again. I'm never doing these drugs again. Sometimes something bad has to happen to you. I've woken up naked at places, and I've woken up in my own piss, in my own vomit. Like, I've had bad experiences, and some people might laugh about it. I kind of, you know, think it's kind of, look back on myself like that was really dumb. But I mean, you know, sometimes you learn from those experiences. It takes a while sometimes, but you just never want to be you never want to be that idiot again. You know, you look at your past and you're like, I was that idiot, you know, drunk in my own piss, in my own vomit, naked somewhere, like at a party. Like, how did I end up like, what the hell? And so, you know, and sometimes like it's so dangerous because, you know, you'll be at maybe an apartment complex or somewhere where there's stairs and you fall down the stairs. I've rolled downstairs. I could have broke my neck, but I kind of like caught myself and kind of rolled down. And that was dangerous. So that was some like ninja shit. But, you know, obviously a lot of people aren't going to be as agile or fit or acrobatic as I was back then. But so that's dangerous. You know, obviously drinking and driving, you're going to get in an accident for sure. You're going to kill someone, get in a wreck, mess up your car, all that stuff. Have a financial burden, all that. So, you know, you want to survive. You don't want to kill brain cells. You want to stay healthy. You don't want to fuck with the cartel. You don't want to fuck with drug dealers. You know, stay off the street, get clean, be smart and competent, get a job, find something you're good at. For me, it's bookkeeping. I'm getting into QuickBooks. I'm learning it. I can get a job. There's some jobs available. It's not easy to find a job, but you know, once I start getting clients, start getting some experience, start offering my services for free for a certain amount of time until I build my reputation, it takes some time. It's a work in progress, and I hope I make it. But in the meantime, I'm making videos like this to help others out there, addicts, like, you know, whoever's listening, but addicts out there who want to change, right? So that's what I'll say for now. I don't want to, you know, fill this video with too much fluff or unnecessary content, but those are the things I'll say for now. Things I'll talk about later is being prepared to fight for your life, right? Self-defense under the Constitution, like rights to lethal force and self-defense, lethal force in defense of others, duress, you know, protection of life and health, protection of property, right? So things like that we'll get into. But these are things that are your inalienable God-given rights, I believe, right? Not only life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but, you know, right to property, right to protect yourself, defend yourself, right to defend your friends and family, right to protection of life and health. And if you're under duress to take these actions, you had no other choice. It's either like it could be a crime of passion, emotional, you know, crime of passion, or something along those lines. But for the most part, these things are justified and legal, right? You're doing the right thing. If you're clean and you know you're not doing anything wrong, you're a good person, you're part of the working class, you're part of working society, someone's trying to offer you drugs and you don't know if it's laced with fentanyl, you don't know if they're going to kill you, and they're kind of peer pressuring you into it, and you decide to somehow defend yourself, whether it's a firearm or a physical force or whatever, or if there's a fight, or maybe if they end up dead somehow, or even just assaulted, you know, whichever the case, you know, these are your constitutional rights, right? Every state's going to be different, have different penal codes, but this would be, for instance, Texas Penal Code Section 9.31 and 9.32 is self-defense, and 9.32 is lethal force in self-defense, right? 9.33 is lethal force in defense of others, right? Texas Penal Code Section 9.34 is protection of life and health, okay? And duress is Texas Penal Code Section 8.05, okay? That's duress. These are going to be different in every state, I believe, but you should know these in your own state, okay? And say this happens, say you're somewhere and there's a party and people are passing out drugs and everything, and you get in a fight. Sometimes you just have to prevent someone from And that's if you're that kind of person. If you're a soldier, if you're a fighter. Some people are like, I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. Well, you can love all you want. People are going to be dying from drug overdose. You're not going to do anything about it. But if you can do something about it, sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in and what you're willing to protect. You have to be able to fight to defend your friends and family, and to sometimes save people's lives, right? If you look at police officers, the good ones, sometimes they even, if something happens to you, there's a robbery, you call them, they show up. They're prepared to kill someone. They're prepared to kill someone who's robbing your home, who's breaking in, because you don't know if they're going to kill your children. You don't know if they're going to kill your wife, your baby. You don't know. So if someone's breaking in, they're already breaking the law. They're probably going to break any other law. They don't care. And sometimes assassinations do happen, where politicians get killed in their home, lawyers get killed in their home in their sleep. So those, you want to be careful with that. So all I'm saying is that you have the right to defend yourself. Okay, you have the right to defend your friends and family, whatever the case. Those are just a few examples, right? So I don't want to lose my train of thought, but this is part of a survival course where, as a survival operator, you have to be willing to do what it takes to defend your friends and family and to survive, right? So if I'm a survivor, and if I'm a survival operator, and there's a line of cocaine right in front of me, right? Am I going to do it? Should I do it? I want to get high. I'm feeling depressed. I understand that I'm sad or bipolar, or maybe there's a death in the family, and these are my excuses, right? Should I do it? Is it going to help? Is it going to help me survive? If something, this it could be laced with fentanyl, obviously not, right? I shouldn't do that shit. And, I'm not going to be able to defend myself, others, my children, family, wife, spouse, anybody who's in the place, any of my friends, anyone around me. It's like, I'm just doing this basically to just kill my own brain cells, kill my own body. So that's the exact opposite of what I should be doing, okay? So I know that sounds basic, but on a higher level, you want to be like a Jason Bourne, super soldier, right? A Jason Bourne super soldier in the movie, he could remember everyone's license plate, right? Like 10, 20 license plates. You want to be that kind of individual, and that's what I do sometimes. I look at license plates, and I try to repeat them in my mind backwards, okay? Sometimes I'll just know what I have to know and memorize, at least 1 or 2 license plates, just where I'm walking. If I see some license plates in a parking lot, or maybe when I'm driving and I'm parked and I see one right in front of me. So that just and obviously you should get a dash cam, right? Get a dash cam so you don't have to remember anything. If something happens, everything's recorded, okay? But you want to have a good memory. You're not going to have that with drugs. You're not going to have that with any drug. Weed, cocaine, meth, it's going to damage a lot of parts of your brain. It's not going to help, okay? None of it helps. Alcohol doesn't help, none of that. Cigarettes don't help. So obviously, and you want to have a good memory because that's part of who you are. All of your past memories, childhood memories, whether you're learning something in school or anything like that, who your friends are, things your whole history of conversations, you want to remember these things because they're valuable. They mean things to you. They're sentimental, right? They hold value. And when you do drugs, it's going to mess up your short-term memory, probably your long-term memory as well. It messes up all that stuff. So you're just killing yourself. Every time you take a hit, every time you do a drug, you're literally killing yourself. And you're killing your brain cells. And it's not something that your subconscious is probably like, in some sort of like distress, right? Your subconscious is like, what the hell's going on? You're panicking, having anxiety attacks, you're having a bad trip and all that, and you're freaking out, and you're losing all your money, and you're going through all this drama. Drugs, I don't believe doesn't really lead to anything good, right? Until you get clean. You have to get clean. Because all those recovery stories, when you see a recovery story, that's because they were on drugs, but they got clean somehow. And they went through a program, then they got married and had kids, they got a job and all that stuff. It might not be glamorous, the best job, but sometimes they help other addicts, right? So you can recover, okay? You can recover. And sometimes it takes a breakthrough, but those are the things, right? So not everybody, not everybody recovers, and that's another thing. So sometimes the people that don't recover, those are the people I see on Texas Pictures documentaries, where there's always deaths. There's always deaths in the family, and sometimes like up to 5 people in a family have died from drug overdose. They lose a lot of members of the family in a very short time period, and those are the people that don't make it. Those are the people who just don't recover. Okay. So that's where you can likely end up if you don't get clean and recover, right? You're gonna end up as a drug overdose story on one of those internet websites where they tell those fentanyl documentary stories. And if you don't end up there, you'll just end up in a grave site, in a cemetery. It happens a lot more than you think. So they say that there's not a lot of old drug addicts. You don't see 80-year-olds injecting heroin. It's very rare, right? It's very rare that you see old people doing drugs. Old, wrinkly, white hair, 80-year-olds in a cane and a walker, they're not doing drugs because they don't, drug addicts don't make it to that age, right? They die young, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, right? They don't make it that very old in life because the drugs eventually kill them. They overdose. They get so addicted, they just overdose. So another thing I want to talk about is triggers, okay? Your triggers, okay? Your triggers, which a big one is music. Music is a huge trigger, right? Music, it gets emotional or upbeat or whatever, motivational or, gangster rap or whatever. And then you want to do drugs. You want to party. You want to go to a party. You want to drink. You want to do something. You want to take a hit. You want to take a pill, whatever. And those are things you want to be aware of. You want to know what your trigger is, because when you feel like that, got to be like, damn, that's some crazy music, but I'm not gonna fall for it. I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna take a protein drink. I'm just gonna do some push-ups. I'm gonna walk around the block with a weighted vest on. You don't have to let your triggers get the best of you, because once you do, it could be the last time it does, right? Because you'll overdose and die. So music's a big trigger. Sometimes it can be movies. Music is a big one. Sometimes it's friends, like the bad friends you have that are the drug addicts and the drug dealers, and that peer pressure. Sometimes it's a party, socializing, everybody drinking. Sometimes it's like everyone in your family sometimes drinks. You got to get away from that. You have to break that cycle and get clean and just be that black wolf of the family. That black sheep of the family, and just be the oddball and just be the sober person all the time. I've been sober and clean for about 8 years, and that's a long time, right? I did relapse a couple times before that, right? So I probably started maybe back in 2011 was the last time I started staying away from hardcore drugs. It's 2026. So what is that, about 25 years? 25? Is that 25? No, 15. Yeah, see, my math isn't that great. But so 15 years, and I've been, I relapsed a couple times, and I've been clean for about 8. 100%. Not a drop of alcohol, not even a cigarette. No drugs, not a pill, nothing. Just some vitamins, gym, going to school, and I should have done better math, but it's like, I don't know, maybe I think too fast sometimes, but so that's my experience. That's what I'm speaking from. I've done a lot of hardcore drugs. I've done LSD, I've done cocaine, I've done methamphetamine, I've done DXM, which is like over the counter. It's like PCP, but it has the same neurological effects as PCP. I've done Xanax. I've done Valium. I've overdosed on that. I've done a lot of sleeping pills like Ambien CR. I've done a lot of hydrochronic, high-grade KB, weed, OG Sin. I've done Purple Haze. I've done California orange hairs, red hairs. All these different types of hydrochronic and weed and all that. And that should have been my main choice. I should have stuck with weed, not done anything else. But then I started doing other drugs because they got involved in the wrong crowd and all that. But cocaine, if I didn't mention that, a bunch of drugs. I've been laced with some shit. I probably got some cyanide. I probably done fentanyl I was unaware of. I've done a lot of Adderall on the street. I got Adderall on the street. That shit kind of really made me tweak big time. But I've done a lot of a lot of alcohol, right? Vodka, Hennessy, just a lot of Jack Daniels, whiskey, shit like that, mixing it with Coke and whiskey. Um, a lot of bars, Jaeger shots, Jaeger bombs, and stuff like that. But I made a lot of mistakes, and that's where I've learned. I've thrown up a lot. I've vomited a lot. I've vomited so many times. I probably have damage to my esophagus from the acid that's come up, you know, and probably my teeth are a little. I don't know, but it's messed me up pretty good, and now I have some health conditions as a result of this, and also because psychiatric drugs that I've taken and been forced to take in the past. So as far as I can remember, that's the majority of the things I've tried and things I've done, things I've OD'd on, things I've done for many years, and survived. Okay, so that's the experience I'm talking about that I've survived from, and I made it to this point, right? I felt like I've OD'd a bunch of times. I felt like if I didn't do certain things, drink enough water, eat or whatever, or go to the hospital on time, or detox in time, or if I took more, I would have died. Like, people can have near-death experiences, and people just, a cop might just say, "Oh, you're having a bad trip. You're having a bad trip," but no, it's not a bad trip. If you know something's wrong, like you can barely breathe, or you can barely think, or things are shutting down, or like you're so constipated you can't crap, like you're gonna get really sick. The bad things are happening. Your blood pressure is increasing. It's skyrocketing. All these these are medical conditions. And you can't think, you can't walk, you're stuck, you're in paralysis, or you just go walking, you get lost. It fucks up your memory so bad that you just get lost just walking around the block. You're just such a crazy LSD trip or something like that. So all these things, are they're experiences that to where I know that I would never want to go through that again. It's basically like chemically inducing Alzheimer's, or chemically inducing, like, kind of like where you're just like, you could get lost. You could put yourself in timeout and sit in the corner of the room and just get lost. You're like, what the hell? You get lost in a painting. You're like, where the hell am I? Like, you're just looking at a painting. And some people think that's cool and trippy, but when you're trying to work and support a family, when you're trying to make a life for yourself and succeed, get a good job, take care of yourself, be a good person, be a good member of society, that's not a good place to be, right? When you're doing those kinds of things. And you have to understand, like, sometimes people fall into those traps and they just get stuck, and it's just part of the world. This is how the world is. There's so many drugs in America. Kids, especially adolescents, when you're younger, you just don't know any better. You think you're gonna have a good time, but you understand what it does to you, how it makes you think. That's why it's illegal, probably because the thought process, it messes you up. It messes you up big time. Your perception, all that, your point of view, the way you see things, how you interpret information, how you process information. So it's definitely not good for a member of the military like myself, right? For me, I understand that there's bad individuals out there. There's bad actors. There's corrupt individuals. There's people that you need to be careful of. Back then, I was probably one of them. Nowadays, you have to understand that there are people out there that you should protect your family from, right? Any man out there, if you're a man, even a woman, right? Man or woman, but especially men are more protective, right? And there's someone out there on the street acting up, acting crazy, on drugs, or maybe just a predator, like a child predator or something like that. You have to be ready to defend that child. You have to be ready to defend that innocent bystander, that innocent the kid or teenager who's being lured in by the cartel or to do drugs and all that. So you have to be able to intervene. And this is kind of what I'm doing as an intervention professional. That's one of the things. When you intervene, you have to put your feet forward, you have to step forward, and you have to walk into a situation and start speaking, right? You have to intervene, say something. If you see something, say something. Say something, and you might have to do something. You might have to take physical action, physical force, and prevent this crazy drug addict, prevent this child predator from causing any harm, right? That's why there's called a Samaritan Act. That's why there's called a citizen's arrest. You do a citizen's arrest, you know? And so you just have to be prepared for those things. The only way to be prepared is not to be drinking and smoking all the time, taking pills. You have to be strong and fit. You have to be prepared. You have to get strong. You have to eat right, diet, exercise, so you can be smart, competent, think right, eat the right food so your brain's working properly, and exercise. Take your protein, AG1, take your vitamins, you know, do things right. Do your push-ups, get your cardiovascular in, get your fitness in, you know, go to the gym, train, right? So these are the things I'll say, right? Be prepared to fight for your family. Be prepared to fight for your beliefs. And stay smart, stay competent, be a survival operator, be a survival operator, right? These are survival operations, you know? So I hope you enjoyed this first video. I'll try to make more like this, speak more on this, maybe more in depth, not more detailed, you know? So I'll see you soon. Stay safe and take care.